having a relationship and being mentally ill is difficult. Tim and I actually do couples therapy to keep a balance, and I just wouldn't trade my relationship with Tim for anything. Just can't imagine being without Tim. About age 14, I started going legally blind. And I actually think having that in some ways protected me, but it also masked, covered up some of the symptoms that I had of mental illness. The confusion of going through blindness, and then about that time too, I started to realize that I was also gay. So I had a lot of things going on that were confusing. So I didn't feel like I had an outlet to express myself about blindness or about being gay or even having difficulty with mental illness, which I didn't really identify as being mentally ill at that time. But I recognized something was wrong and that I needed help, and just felt like there was no place to turn with it. In 2003, I had moved to a senior high-rise, low-income high-rise here in Red Wing, and being in a shared units where there was TVs playing next door that were loud enough that I could hear them playing, but I couldn't understand what they were saying, caused my brain to try and make a story out of it, which in turn led to triggering the schizophrenia and the auditory hallucinations that I experienced. I had attempted suicide. My sister and mother and my other sister came down and talked to me and tried to get me to go to treatment, and my family encouraged me to get help at the mental health center. My counselor recommended a short hospital stay. I went down to St. Mary's in Rochester, checked into there, and spent about 7 days there. The hospital experience helped me realize that in order to get well, I was going to need a team. I was going to need a team to help me with my finances. I was going to need a team that made sure that my housing was in order, so that I was keeping house, I was eating correctly. Diet is so important to not only mental health, but your general health as well. I think the most important part I've realized about my own hallucinations and other people that have hallucinations is that when you're in the midst of an hallucination, it is so very real. The experience that I had that helped me realize that is I was outside here one day, and my neighbors have wind chimes, and the wind chimes were just gently making noise in the breeze. My brain was trying to make voices out of it, trying to make a story out of it, and I realized all of a sudden that that wasn't possible. And if that wasn't possible, then all of the other things that I experienced in terms of auditory hallucinations simply weren't happening. They weren't true. And that was a real initial step in terms of recovery and realizing that there was hope and that I could actually think my way out of what was happening to me. One of the things I do when I start to experience something that I don't think is real, that I think is an hallucination, is I'll say to Tim, you know what, I'm hearing what I think are voices outside. Would you look out the window and see if there's actually somebody out there? Because it just doesn't, 2 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't make sense to me that somebody's standing outside the house and talking, and yet I feel like I'm hearing voices and trying to make sense out of what they're saying. Having been gay and experiencing blindness and mental illness, stigma has played a role in my life. Sometimes it's very subtle and sometimes it's very bold. The stigma, living in a small town, Red Wing is a population of about 17,000. You would think in a town this small that everybody would know who I am and what I do each day, but that's not really true. I truly appreciate the fact that you make yourself available to people like myself that experience symptoms of mental illness and that might need just a little extra support. And one of the things that I've been assertive about is to being in contact with members of the police department. I want them to know that I have mental illness. I want them to have an understanding that I experience auditory hallucinations and that there might be a day when I'm not acting normally and I'll need their help, whether I ask for it or not. It feels so good to know that they know, and I'm not afraid to share it, and I'm not afraid that people will mistreat me because of it.
Thank you, Dale. You've
Appreciate
worked
your
hard
time.
to get where you're at, and we appreciate it. We
All right.
appreciate the volunteer activities you do for our community. And
I think probably the most important part of my life, in terms of recovery especially, was having a relationship with Tim. Just his existence, his being with me, taking naps in the afternoon, for instance, and holding hands. And I can't imagine being without him. And to be able to use that relationship in a way to reach out into the community and actually make a difference for other people in the community, not just with mental illness alone, but to help them with poverty, to help them with jobs, to help them with homelessness, that we're not just here to take care of ourselves, but we're here to help people, to build community, and make this community our home, to make it a healthier, happier place to be.